You are listening to Rip It Up, the renovations podcast.
Hi, I'm Kate. I run the Instagram page Victorian Math Minds.
And I'm Jenny. I run the Instagram account Workers Cottage.
This podcast is all about renovation and interiors from the renovator's perspective. We've been through it a few times between us and it hasn't scared us off.
In fact, we loved it. So if you are planning to do up your own home, you can expect to hear lots of advice from our own experience, along with plenty of tips and inspiration. This is episode 11, and we are talking all things external windows and doors, from your front door to Crittall-style doors, and from sash windows to sunroofs. Welcome to episode 11.
Lucky 11.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, Jenny.
How's it going?
Good.
We're continuing on our journey of kind of renovation step by step.
Yeah.
And today we're going to talk about windows and doors. So all your external windows and doors.
Yeah.
Another thing that has a pretty long lead time, can have a long lead time because they need to be custom measured, custom made, and more decisions than you would think.
And lots of things to go wrong, unfortunately.
This is one where I was like, I just, for some reason, just didn't give a crap about windows. I have a funny thing where like I don't care about the exterior of my house at all. I just really cared about the interior. So windows, I was like, I don't know, just get windows. And they were like, well, what material do you want? And what kind of glazing do you want? And I was like, I don't know, the normal kind. And there's lots of different options. And you have to think it through, so it's worth diving in.
I find in renovation, it tends to be where people have problems.
Oh, really?
Yeah, major problems. We had problems in our first house up here.
Yeah.
Our glazing. And I'm talking about our new glazing. I'm not even talking about the original windows we restored. Like we had problems with the supplier there. So like it can be an area where things go wrong. There's a lot of things to seal and fit right. And like you said, it's custom. Yeah. They're custom openings. They're custom styles. And the frames, you know, have been measured at one point in time. And then they come back and something could have shifted. Something could have changed on site or something, you know, went wrong in the build and now they don't fit anymore or something, you know? So yeah, things can go wrong.
That's an expensive mistake.
It's an expensive mistake for sure. Yeah. So it's definitely worth going with reputable suppliers when it comes to windows and doors.
Big time.
Yeah.
Because that's one of those things that's going to be in forever, basically.
Yeah.
Again, just don't cheap out on your windows and doors. It's not worth it.
No.
So the first thing that I was asked to choose anyway is what material, like is it going to be wood? You know, it's so the casing of the window, basically, what material are you going for? On my front of my house, I went with wood because I just like the look of it. I think it was more in keeping with.
And when you say wood, is it like
actually it's an engineered wood? So back in the day, right, if you had wood windows, there would have been quite a bit of maintenance involved in them because they have to be repainted and they have to be resealed and all that kind of stuff. But actually these days they're made from an engineered wood for the main part, right? Double check with your supplier.
Okay.
And they're fairly bulletproof and pretty much last forever.
And your mechanisms and all that.
Yeah, so then built into it is all...
Okay, so it's like an Aluclad.
Yeah.
So it's an aluminium frame, but it's clad in wood.
Clad in wood.
Okay, it's not solid wood.
Exactly.
Sorry, because our windows in our old house were the original sashes, which were all wood.
Yeah.
But you don't have any of that lovely kind of new mechanisms then. You have kind of, you know, wood sliders and weights and all that kind of stuff. So it's not as smooth and...
But it looks beautiful.
It looks beautiful,
but it's a pain in the ass to open it.
Yeah.
But Aluclad, so Aluclad is basically, there's a metal everything. So the bits that open and close, the hinges, the locks, all that kind of stuff is metal. But then it is clad in an engineered wood, which I think looks really nice because you can paint it different colours.
Definitely. Yeah.
I have mine painted one colour on the outside and one colour on the inside, which I really like. It's a fun option. I didn't realise was an option, but my supplier was like, what colour do you want on the inside versus the outside? And I was like, oh, cool.
I get to pick two colours.
Yeah.
I'm not getting decision fatigue at all. Thanks.
I'm
just about to explode today.
Because I love the look of dark windows, but from the outside, I actually don't love the look that much from the inside.
Yeah, I get you,
So I went yellow on the inside and dark on the outside.
Yeah, no, I love that kind of the option to have that wood, but still have the kind of aluminium mechanisms. I love like the look of solid wood in the sash windows because, well, can I just say first off, I hate PVC.
Yeah, can we just look? You can get PVC as an option. Don't. That's enough said on the matter.
I'm sorry. Okay, like I know people tell me you can get PVC sashes now. You can get they never look that good.
They also don't last that well.
They always have these.
It's a bit of a blanket statement. Sorry, some of them do.
Chunky frames and like they just never look that slick.
No,
I'm all for like either Aluclad or something like that. We have the timber on the outside or solid wood, but I think the PVC just don't cut the mustard.
I just don't love it in a door either, and it can warp and it can break, and it's not the perennial material that.
Yeah, no, but Aluclad for me gives you kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and now that's there's a reason that it's the more expensive option, but it's not crazy more expensive, and I think it's worth it.
Yeah. In our house, we didn't have that option because our house was protected, so the original sashes had to be maintained. So we essentially restored them. So you have the kind of option in some of them, not all of them, to kind of put a double glazed, I suppose, sandwiched window in the original frames, in the original sashes.
So you take apart the original frames, kind of expand them, and then put a...
Exactly, yeah. You have to kind of just route out a little extra space and then put in these kind of double glazed units. Now, putting those into old sashes wouldn't give you the kind of good insulation properties of, say, new windows, because you still have the weight system, you still have kind of voids around the window that drafts are going to get in. So it's never going to be super efficient, but it's better. But since we did our last windows and we've gotten the same window guy out to quote for our new place, we've come across this amazing new stuff. Now, the brand he showed me, there's probably loads of brands, but it's called Fineo. So it's this ultra thin kind of vacuum glass. So you can fit it. It's as efficient as a triple glaze, but it's a thin unit that you can fit into original sashes.
Absolute magic. Because I know some of you listeners will be going through this. Certain conservation protections on homes require you to have single glazing for planning permission. I think that's bonkers. It's just so ridiculous. It goes against what we as a country are trying to do in terms of energy efficiency. But anyway, there are requirements on certain homes for conservation that you have to have single glazing. Yeah. So you're saying there's an answer?
Well, no, I wouldn't call it an answer, because for conservation, they want you to keep original glass, because the way they made the glass, you know, spun the glass or whatever, isn't done that way anymore. So you don't get that lovely rippling with this new glass.
I know that is nice.
It does look beautiful from the outside,
efficient,
but like huge sash windows, that single glaze, you're losing all your heat.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, this is not sustainable homes.
It's crazy.
There has to be something you can kind of, some bit of give.
Yeah.
So this Fineo glass has tiny, tiny little dots. So if you really hold up to bright light and you're up close, you can kind of see the dots. Now, from any distance away, you wouldn't see the dots at all.
Do the dots do anything?
I don't know why the dots are in it. Is there something about the structure of it or something? I haven't a clue. But there are dots in the glass, these tiny little specks, I suppose. So that's an option if you have very thin wood frames that you want to retrofit something more efficient. And if you are restoring kind of original sash windows, there's like, that's a whole process in itself, right? It takes a long time. So the person will probably have to take out the sashes, restore the frames potentially, reweight the system, do all that, and then actually maybe replace the glass if you're replacing the original glass, or put in double glazed units or this kind of vacuum glass we mentioned. So there's lots around that as well. And some of that can be dictated by conservation if you've bought an old house that's listed. So keep it in mind time-wise, because it can be a very complicated process.
How long?
12 weeks, maybe 16 weeks. You know, you're not making the windows. So it depends on the supplier, obviously. Some suppliers might be quicker, but like, it's a lot of joinery in it and getting that right and taking those off and stripping them and, you know, doing the new latches and locks and all that kind of stuff and reweighting the system. There's a lot of work in it. It's expensive, and, you know, a lot of it can be dictated by conservation. So definitely keep it in mind time-wise.
Good to know. I will say Windows and Doors Day was like probably one of the most exciting days of my renovation. I don't know why, but just getting windows and doors in, it just finally felt like a house or something.
Making the building kind of properly airtight. Like, well, I could live in here now if I wanted to.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Yeah. Remember back in the day, you don't see this anymore because glass is so well made now that it's really difficult to break. But you remember back in the day, you'd have these windows that would have either kind of like wire mesh running through them.
That was like a school glass almost.
Like school glass, and it's for structure, right? So it doesn't shatter and break easily. Remember that lead diamond battery in our next door neighbours? Long story short, their garage exploded, and I remember our neighbour on the other side of them, their windows bulged out but didn't break because they had that lead crisscross battering through.
Oh wow, isn't that mad? Yeah.
That's so the glass, everybody else's windows shattered, but their glass didn't shatter, but it just bulged.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, we've got that wired glass in the side panels beside our whole door.
Oh yeah.
It's hideous. Like, I obviously have to change it. Like, it's really old fashioned. Like we didn't put it in, it was just there when we bought the house. So it's something I'd love to change. But yeah, that one of the limitations of trying to retrofit original sash windows is you just mightn't have the space to put double glazed units because they're very thin wood frames. So this new kind of type of glass might be a solution to that.
And I mean, if you have original sash windows and if you are able to seal the edges of them so there's no draft, they're so beautiful. I mean, there's no matching them. Like, they're just so stunning.
Yeah, so beautiful.
I know they're a bit annoying to open and close, and they've got old school kind of chain mechanisms and all that, but they're so pretty.
Yeah, they are so pretty. And there's no comparison, I think, in the front with original timber sashes, as in the frame thickness, the arches at the top, what they look like. No other windows look as nice.
Agreed. Agreed.
So yeah.
But if you don't have sash windows, or you're not necessarily putting in sash windows, then you're left with a whole option of styles and what you want. So there was a great piece of advice from Optimized Design, Denise from Optimized Design. I was researching for an article about this before. She had a brilliant piece of advice saying, if you're buying in a neighborhood surrounded by similar houses, talk to your neighbors and ask them, would they do anything differently with their windows and doors? And I thought that was so clever, especially for windows, because, you know, certain aspects of the house, for example, you might want to be able to open the window more widely, or you might want security in your front windows. You might want to be able to crack them for certain reasons.
Yeah.
So that will really dictate then what type of window you get in terms of the opening mechanism, or whether you get, you know, lots of different panels versus one big fixed panel or something like that. I thought that was a great piece of advice.
Yeah, that is. And especially for people who've lived there for a while, they'll know if it needs to be soundproof better or whatever, and that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, definitely ask. And look at the windows that you like on the street. Say, I like your windows the best. Where'd you get them done?
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, they can do them then. They've done a house similar to yours. So it's definitely worth looking around at your neighbours.
I have T, I think it's called T-bar or T-pane. It's basically 3 panes where there's one horizontal one at the top, and then there are 2 vertical panes underneath it.
Okay.
And all of them, I love this mechanism where you can crack the window.
But
So
not
there's
open it
a draft
fully.
coming through, but it's still locked closed, and there isn't enough
Gotcha,
space
yeah,
for someone to get like fingers inside or anything like that. That's so handy for summer because this house gets very hot in summertime.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Ours were just sliding sashes in the old house. So they're huge. Like, they just slide up, and then there's a massive opening. You can climb out the window if you want, or someone can climb in if you leave it open. But then in our current house, we have casement windows.
Go on.
But original casement, so like 4 small panes
Yeah.
in most of the bedrooms. And then the front bedroom, they replaced it at some point. So we want to replace it back to kind of what would have looked like the original one.
Yeah.
But they just open out.
So you can have casement, which opens out wide open. You can have tilt and turn, which is where the hinge, rather than being at the top of the window pane so that the pane opens fully out, is in the middle of the frame, so that you have half the window pane kind of tilting into your house and half of it's on the outside of the house.
Interesting.
And then, of course, you can have sliding.
Yeah.
So I have sliding doors in the back of my house. I also have a sliding window upstairs because I have a really big window pane and I want to be able to climb in and out to go down to the
Love that,
roof extension if
Love
I
that.
want to.
We
So those are
had
all your options, really.
bifolds in our last
Yeah,
house.
they're fab.
Yeah, would I do them again? Probably not.
So this is your back in your your back kind of kitchen area.
Yeah, out to
leading
the
out to your
garden.
garden. They're like accordion, don't they? Kind of onto the
Yeah,
side.
so we had one fixed angle pane, and then we had, say, a 2.5 meter long opening, which we had 3 panels that when you kind of slid the handle, you just fold them back to the left. So they'd stack to the side. Now, when you stack 3 bifolds, they're very chunky.
They take up a lot of.
They take up a lot of room. So I wouldn't put bifolds in again unless I had huge space, like a big, big opening, or somewhere for them to fold back and hide.
Yeah,
So consider that, because some people think you'd fold them back and they're invisible. They're not.
yeah,
They're
they
chunky.
do actually take up a good bit of space. Yeah, that's one to think about.
Yeah. So that was bifold. And I mentioned as well, we had a bit of a disaster.
Oh yeah.
I won't even name the supplier because I don't like naming suppliers, because sometimes, it just might have been that job they were unlucky on or whatever. But the same supplier didn't even come back to rectify any of the stuff.
Shocking.
So it was pretty bad. But we were we wanted Crittall, right, at the time.
So Crittall is that gorgeous like metal design, really light, where it's all the black squares, basically.
Essentially, like
so
steel frames, usually black, but they can come in other colours. We wanted those. We were quoted, this is eye-watering, we wanted bifold and Crittall, which isn't kind of typically done, but we were quoted €35,000 for bifold and Crittall doors. Wasn't
I'd just
happening.
be like sticking black sellotape.
We
up
were
to
like, yeah, sure, cool, sounds good. No. So we obviously had to look at an alternative,
Yeah.
and the alternative was aluminium windows that kind of looked like Crittall.
Crittall.
And at the time, and we didn't want chunky frames, so we shopped around for the supplier that claimed they could do the thinnest frame. We went with them. They looked pretty slick in
They
the
looked
showroom.
great.
But we just had issues. They didn't seal properly. The bars were offline. They never returned, whatever. So I suppose my advice is, if you want Crittall, go with Crittall, but don't do fake, because
Yeah.
it just will never be right, I think. So go with what the supplier has experience in, rather than don't be their test subject, I would say.
Yeah. And I would, for those sliding doors again, you're looking at aluminium or Aluclad, really, or steel.
Yeah.
Steel is expensive, but it can be
expensive.
really, really nice.
And it's
really
hard
light.
and it's hard to get them thermally broken as well. So
Yeah.
that was one thing about the Crittall as well. To thermally break them and properly insulate the threshold can be quite difficult.
Yeah.
Bifolding doors have a bigger threshold as well. So that's something to consider. You kind of have to step over the threshold because they have to
On the
slide.
ground, like
they
slidey bit,
slide
yeah.
on the tracks. Whereas slider doors have a slimmer threshold.
Yeah.
So if you want that kind of slick indoor-outdoor look, sliders might be a cleaner option than bifolds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a really good tip. I never knew that.
Yeah.
So the other big question then that you have to contend with is, are you getting double glazing? Are you getting triple glazing? What other treatments are you getting on your window?
Yeah.
I don't even know what I have, actually. Pretty sure I've got triple and some in the back area. I don't think triple is worth it. I'm just going to come out and say it. Double glazing is
So good nowadays.
Double glazing is 80% more thermally insulated or more effective, let's say, than single glazing. Triple glazing is an additional 30%, but you've already gotten 80% of the way there, so that's 30% of 20%.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so it's not a big margin extra. We're not living in the Arctic. I just don't really feel like triple is necessarily worth it.
Yeah. I don't think
Unless-
so. I had double everywhere.
Yeah.
There were some suggestions we did triple on the skylight
Okay.
because there's some restrictions depending on if you want to have that roof as a walk-on or
Oh,
something like
okay.
that. Then you have to have specific thickness of glass and stuff. We didn't want to walk on. It wasn't going to be a patio up there or whatever where we had our big skylight. So we just went with double there. But that might be somewhere someone wants triple. If they
Yeah.
want to walk on glass.
So, and this is especially for those skylights where it's not just a, little Velux window. Like this was the full length of your kitchen, really,
Yes.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
So
it was
like
a
big
full-length kitchen.
window roof,
It was
basically.
like 5 meters by a meter or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Just long strip light. So yeah, that might be somewhere that people want to have triple
Yeah.
glazing where they need to walk in it.
That's another really good topic, though, on windows is skylights. So you're
Mm.
not just putting windows in your walls necessarily. Skylights are amazing. Such a huge fan. I think they're great. I would put them, everywhere.
Yeah.
You can have fixed ones. So you'd have fixed one. It doesn't open.
Yeah.
You can have openable ones. You can have ones now that are remote control. I think they're wonderful. Velux do this range. If you have a dormer roof or a dormer bedroom, something like that, they have these lovely big ones that turn into a balcony. So the window kind of opens at the middle. The bottom half of the window ends up standing vertically, and then it has these railings that kind of come out along the side of it. So you have.
I
this
always wondered
tiny
for planning
balcony.
for those. I think it was in like the Ed Sheeran Galway Girl video.
Planning.
Yeah.
So for those ones, I'm not sure. Generally, for skylights on your roof, you don't need planning for a skylight in the back of your house.
Yeah.
It can be an issue in the front of your house. In general, in the back of your
But
house,
once
you don't.
it's a walkout area,
I don't know. I guess if you're
It's
overlooking
a-
someone, there could be an
yeah,
issue.
that's why I think I always wondered on planning. Technically, that's a patio area or something.
If anyone knows, let us know, because I don't.
Because if you look at the end of the Galway Girl video, the Ed Sheeran video, they go out onto one of those.
Oh, do they? Oh,
Yeah.
I should watch that.
And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But then I was like, are you allowed to do that? Are you allowed to overlook your neighbours? Because like, it's one thing having a skylight because you can't really see her. But if you can actually walk out there, then
Yeah.
perfect view, potentially your neighbours' gardens or other houses or whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, if anyone knows. Because usually you don't need planning, but once it's above first floor level and you're within 11 metres of someone, typically you do need planning.
Yeah, for oversight.
Yeah.
I have a question about your skylight in your old kitchen. Was it hard to clean? Did it get dirty?
I had quite the knack for cleaning this.
Did you, yeah?
So it was 5 meters by a meter, and the roof up there was sedum. So we did a green roof.
Yeah, which I
around it,
loved, yeah,
because
it's
I
beautiful.
hate the look of the standard grey, whatever they put, trocal or zinc or whatever was on the roof. So we did a green roof in sedum, and just beside that was our bathroom, right? So our bathroom, just a traditional sash window, you slid it up. And in our bath, we had a handheld. So I used to lean out the bathroom, warm water from the shower, and you could hose it
No, is
down.
it?
And it literally ran down because there was a slight slope on there has to be a slight slope for water runoff on those.
Right. So if there's a slight slope, then I suppose like dry leaves and stuff blow off anyway, right?
Kind of like, but you'd still need to hose it down maybe
Yeah.
once a fortnight or something like that. And the warm water would literally just clean it. I'd literally just spray it down.
Oh.
I might spray it with cleaner if it was very bad, or if it was like autumn time now and there was a lot of dirty leaves or whatever. I'd just spray some cleaner on it, go out, hose it down with the handheld. It would all run down the slope of the glass and down the front, and it was done.
Wow.
That was sparkling.
So, because I have a skylight in my upstairs landing, which it's the only source of natural light in there, really. And it's in my old chimney, because I don't have a fireplace anymore. But the old chimney stack, there's a skylight on top of it to let light in, which I love. But I can't clean it. There's no real way to clean
Okay,
it.
yeah.
Um,
Does it get dirty? Can you see it?
it does, because of the bloody seagulls.
Pages.
in
Oh,
the
seagulls.
Well, it's a whole topic for another day, but yeah, the seagulls love to. Sometimes they land on it early in the morning and they tap around on it in case it's frying well.
Looking up seagulls' arse.
And they'll leave me a little present.
Lovely.
Feckers. Skylights anyway. One last one on skylights is there are these things available called sun tunnels, and I think they are magic. They're basically portals, like little round portholes, but they can tunnel through. So say, for example, if you have a basement or if you have a really dark room that doesn't have an overhead ceiling where you could put a normal skylight, you can tunnel a sun tunnel through, and it's round, so it rarely leaks. It's a very solid structure because a lot of leaking occurs in the corners of windows or doors or skylights, whatever it might be. But it's round, so it's really, really, really sturdy and easy to install, actually. And then it has this reflective surface on the inside, so it basically just beams natural daylight down into your room.
I think I saw that in a Grand Designs one time.
Did you?
Yeah.
I think they're so
I
clever.
thought it was a really cool idea, the reflective surface, so it kind of mirrors the light all the way down.
Yeah, it just reflects the light
cool.
all the way in. Yeah, so I think it's brilliant. If you have a really dark room and that you haven't been able to install a window or a skylight, that's one to look at.
I think it's a really good way of just bringing in light generally, just having skylights of any kind of sort. But we put the skylight in our last house on the south side of the extension, or the side of the house. So because our garden was east facing and we had a little overhang, I mean, there wasn't amazing light from the actual doors at the back, but the skylight on the south facing, it would actually just light your kitchen all day long.
Brilliant.
And
Which is so nice.
Yeah, it is. It's super bright. So bright, in fact, that when we worked at the kitchen island during COVID, we had to wear sunglasses. So yeah, there's a watch out if you've white countertops.
Yeah, that happens to me in here sometimes in the kitchen because I have this west facing garden, which is really bright. Talk to me about patterns on windows. I'm thinking about, so I remember your old bathroom, I think it was, in your previous house. You put a reeded glass film.
I did.
Was it on the window? For privacy.
Yeah, so like, you need privacy obviously in bathrooms. You don't want to put, like, we all know the horrible patterned flowery glass in old houses, but like, I didn't want to commit to any particular pattern of privacy glass. Yeah. So I asked them just to put clear glass panels. And then for privacy, I installed a reeded glass film, which for all the world looks real.
And you put it up yourself. I think it was just like a hairdryer and a like squeegee thing. Just
not even a hairdryer, just spray like a washing up liquid water mix, and then it kind of, wiggles into place.
Oh,
and
so
you
it's not even a glue.
No.
It's kind of just suctioned on.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's just like a vinyl kind of film, but it's
so
kind
it just
of
comes
3D.
right off then if you don't. Oh,
exactly.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
So it's kind of 3D. So there's kind of a texture in it. So it looks like real reeded glass, I think. Very hard to tell from kind of any distance that it's not.
I love reeded. Reeded is so flat. I'd never get sick of reeded.
I personally would never commit to an obscured glass because I don't know I'd like that pattern.
Because so you can buy glass that basically has a pattern in it. It's etched on. Yeah. So there's no removing it. Obviously.
Then you're committed. That's it.
Yeah.
And is reeded glass going to be the flowery glass of the future?
Well, if it is, you can just peel it off and
exactly. So that's why.
The other thing you can do, which is fun, is like you can get those films. You can get frosted films. You can get any kind of film. Our family home, my dad just put on a frosted film in an upstairs bathroom window, and it looks perfect. But you can buy decals too if you want something a bit more fun. You can get everything. You can get stained glass decals. You can get anything. Yeah. It looks pretty cool.
Butterfly ones, whatever.
In my wild house that I do next, I'll put something.
You'll have some glittery one or something.
What do you think about stained glass overall?
I do love stained glass, but I'm not mad about the really vivid colours of stained glass. I like the more kind of washed out, a little bit more subtle stained glass maybe. Yeah. And I personally, I know it depends on the style of the house, the age of the house, whatever, but I love more geometric patterns in stained glass.
Rather than floral. You just don't like flowers, I think is where we're going with this.
Maybe I'm not a big florally person. But I do love kind of geometric patterns in stained glass. I think it's quite cool. And I saw Rathmines Glass doing one where they did loads of different shades of white glass.
Oh, cool.
So slightly different variations in kind of pattern and tints of white. So there wasn't any colour in it, but it was all different kind of shades, which I thought was really, really cool.
I'm going to look that up.
Yeah.
They're my neighbours. Shout out to Rathmines Glass. They're amazing. I know a friend of mine, Rachel, if you're listening, has the most beautiful stained glass door in her house that she did recently. And her family were stained glass experts. So it's a lovely kind of call back to that. But I think it looks so stunning. Yeah. I also saw, I can't remember whose house it is now. I saw it on Instagram, but it was all these circles, of stained glass in a pattern. I think it was down a stairway or something. I just thought that looked really cool. All different colours, really beautiful.
Gorgeous. And I think you can kind of sandwich stained glass now for kind of thermal properties as well. So you can kind of put you can put stained glass inside a double glass unit.
Oh, right,
double
okay. So it's
glazed
like
unit.
Third.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, there is a slight risk, I think, of condensation between the layers, maybe,
Okay.
some people say, but it's just a way of not having freezing cold, leaded glass, single pane, you know?
Because they were like the light shining through it and the
So
reflection.
nice.
So beautiful.
We had a stained glass window in our last house up in the landing, and it was like, maybe that's why I like the kind of more washed out colours. It was kind of like, I used to call it the unicorn window, because it was like pink and purple and turquoise. And I loved it.
Cool.
But it was like really different, because all the kind of stained glass I had seen was very jewelly blues and really deep reds and greens. Whereas this was kind of like I don't know, all I could describe it was like a unicorn window. It was those kind of colours. And I loved it.
You want that kind of antique look too. There's something about the really vivid colours that are just too new for me or something, and it doesn't match with what I believe about stained glass, which is that it's
loved
old
it. And the light coming through that at certain times of day, it's just fab.
Gorgeous.
It was like artwork on your wall, the way the colours would just kind of spill down.
Yeah.
Love it.
The other option for privacy, right, if you've loads of money and you want to throw it at your window supplier, is you can get these. We have them in our office actually at work. You can get these. It's glass that has a very, very tiny current running through it.
Okay.
And you flick a switch. So it has to be wired to something, or it needs a battery pack. You flick a switch and it goes opaque.
Okay.
So there's basically all these kind of crystals within it that line up. It's basically polarized, right?
Yeah.
So things line up a certain direction when you flick the switch, and it turns the glass opaque, which is
interesting.
You know, if that's something you thought you needed, that could be pretty cool.
Very modern though.
Very modern.
Very modern.
Yeah.
But
You can also get, this could be cool for your skylight, self-cleaning glass.
Oh yeah, I've heard about this. I always wondered, and I've heard the ads for it on the radio or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, does it actually work?
So it's basically, again, it has a little electrical current through it, and it basically just vibrates at a
Okay, so it kind of dries.
imperceptible kind of,
Essentially powders off the dirt.
exactly.
Is it as good as a shower hanging out a window though?
Probably not, is anything. Don't think
So really the answer here is, if you're putting in a roof light, a long roof light, put it beside your bathroom so you can hang out with the handheld shower.
Or your garden
That's how
hose,
you're going
you
to
know.
clean it.
Yeah, that's what you're gonna do.
No, the garden hose isn't as good, you see, because you can't get hot water.
Oh, the water, it's the
Heat
hot
water from the
waters.
bath, like melted the dirt.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah,
You heard it here first. It's just packed full of tips, this podcast.
absolutely.
Okay, that's windows. The next thing then that you have to order probably around the same time as your window is your door, your front door.
Yeah,
Pretty
expensive nowadays.
Really bloody expensive.
Wow, I was really shocked.
I got mine with my front windows. Shout out to Mellet Joinery. They're down in Ballinrobe in County Galway, and they were fabulous. So he did my front door for me as well. Also Aluclad.
It's worth it though, isn't it, for a good front door, because your front door lets in so much like drafts or whatever, even through the keyhole from underneath, around the sides. If it's not properly sealed and insulated and brush stripped, you can lose so much heat through your front door. So much.
Also through your letterbox. I chose not to
I
get
closed off
letterbox to
mine.
my door. Yeah, so I've got a box now on the outside, because like that's really where the huge amount, I'd love to look up the percentage now, but a huge amount of heat gets lost through front doors.
Don't, if you're getting a new whole door, don't put a letterbox in it.
No, just have a box outside.
Post box.
Yeah.
100%. You lose so much heat through that. But I also think it's because your whole door opens into a hall, which is essentially like a tunnel. For most people, unless you have a huge house, is a tunnel. So it's like a wind tunnel. So it funnels the cold air through your house. So it's so important to have a good whole door, good seals.
Really
if
good
you have
seals.
any glazing around it, trying to double
So
glaze
this
that.
is always a big question about, do people get a door with a window in it or not, or would you put windows on the side? It's a tough one to answer, right? Because my gut is like, no, because if somebody knocks on my door, I want to be able to hide, typically, right? I don't necessarily want to be, seen. And for privacy, I don't know if I'd want a window in my door, but that's easy for me to say because I have a window beside my door in my hallway going up the stairs. So I have a lot of light coming through
Those.
anyway. So if I didn't have that light coming through, I theoretically might want a window. Obviously, I get it frosted or put reeded film on it or something. The answer to all of that, though, really is if you can put a fan light or a transom window
Over the top.
So a transom is any window basically that goes above the door. This is always such a good option, even for internal doors. Like if you have a doorway that's going into a very dark room, you could think about putting a transom window above it because you keep the privacy, but you get some light in through it then.
Yeah. You just have to be one of those people that isn't bothered by maybe the light coming in the morning. Some people like a pitch dark room. I put in glass doors in my first house in Galway.
Front door?
In the bedroom
in
doors.
the inside, yeah.
Frosted glass doors. But yeah, it's just that the light comes in the mornings. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
But it didn't really bother me.
You're a morning person.
It bothers some people who love sleeping in pitch darkness.
But on your front door, I think that can be a good
Yeah.
option to give you privacy. It means you don't have to be seen through your front door. It's good for security as well, but you do get some daylight in there, which is nice in your hallway.
It is nice
where you're
for
not
sure.
sleeping. So you've the same. You're basically your front door. You've the same material considerations as you do for windows. You can get PVC or UPVC. Just don't. I think just don't bother getting PVC. It's just not nice.
Just get a nice wood door.
You can get wood, aluminium or steel. You can get Aluclad. That's what I went for. That's what I would advise going for. You redid your front door in your previous house.
No, we just refinished them.
We
priced a new whole door, and we were actually floored by how expensive it was. I'm sure they're more expensive now, but
thousands.
Because we were planning on selling up, we were like, it's not worth it. Like, we're not going to get it back in the sale. And I know the new owners have put in a new whole door, and it's something we would have done.
I walk past it all the time,
and it's lovely. Like, in fairness, every time I pass the house, they've done something lovely
green
to it.
door,
It's gorgeous. But it was just too expensive at the time. But we would have done it if we had stayed in the house longer.
Yeah,
for sure.
So the final kind of major consideration then, right, is what lock are you putting in, and what does that mean for the hardware of your door? So the typical lock that you go for security and to reduce your insurance premium and all that kind of stuff is a 5-lever mortise lock. So this is where, when you lock the door, bolts just kind of shoot out at 5 different points across your door, and it means it's super secure. You can get a 7-lever mortise lock if you are super into security, but typically what you get is a 5-lever. And the easiest mechanism for opening that is a handle, but I don't like door handles. I don't want a handle on the front of my door. I wanted to keep the original brass doorknob that was in the middle of the door. So it means that my door is a little bit tricky to open sometimes. It just, it's not, you kind of need 2 hands, right? One to turn the key and then one to, push with the doorknob at the same time. But I thought it was worth it because when you think about the hardware, I just really wanted that traditional, existing brass doorknob that I took from the old door and put it onto the new door. I didn't really want the handle.
Yeah, our doors always just have the center kind of traditional knob as well, and just the plain kind of keyhole lock. I'm the same. I don't really like the look of a handle on the outside of a door.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just prefer
it's just not for old homes, I think. Yeah.
So that's your door hardware. And my last thing is I've recently been thinking a lot about getting a smart lock. There's some really good ones out there at the moment.
I have a few smart locks. We have one on our side entrance, and we have one in our garage, kind of gym office kind of room. There's a keypad on it, or you can use just like an RFID card.
Yeah. I think they work with phones and Apple Watches and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they do, yeah. It's very handy because you're never kind of stuck, I suppose.
Yeah.
I wouldn't maybe put it as the primary lock on my hall door yet.
I think I might.
No, the one I have. Like,
that one, okay.
That particular
There's some
one.
incredible ones out there. Like, there's ones where you can, you could give out a guest code and you can change it.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of research. Schlage seems to be the
Okay.
best one. Thanks to my neighbour, actually, for advising that one.
What was the name of it?
Schlage, SCHLAGE.
Okay. My brother had one called Keevo.
Okay.
KEEVO, I think.
And then Yale do a pretty good one. It's gotten really good reviews.
We had a Yale house alarm last time.
Yeah.
And you could get the kind of lock that connects to your house alarm and all
Oh,
that. Like
yeah.
Again, smart home was probably another episode we could do, but all those kind of interconnected things. So in the current house, and I think you can get Ring ones as well, but we just haven't invested in them yet. We have Ring alarms, but you can get the kind of Ring keyholes or whatever that connect to your alarm, so you get kind of notified if they're opened and stuff like that. And we also have little sensors that are connected to our Ring alarm that when the whole door opens, it does a little cling on the base unit. Great when you have a toddler that wants to run all the time. So I actually have one on the side gate on my hall door, so I know if someone opens either of those.
That's really handy.
And it just gives you a little cling, and you look out and be like, oh,
there he goes.
There.
Yeah. Taking a break for freedom.
Yeah. So that's a great kind of tip for security as well. So
we'll definitely do a smart homes episode. Yeah, I'd love to get
But if you're thinking about locks and stuff like that, definitely think about, connectivity with maybe your house alarm and stuff as well.
Yeah, really, really handy. And the ones I was looking at as well, because I was like, do I need to get an electrician in and wire my front door up? What does that cost? No, they're battery powered, which is brilliant. So yeah, I think I'm going to do it.
It's a no-brainer.
Keep an eye out. Keep an ear out. My new smart lock door. All right, I think that pretty much covers it for windows and doors. It's an expensive one. There's a long lead time, so make sure you make your decision early and go with a trusted supplier because, as you've heard, like a lot can go wrong with windows and doors, and it's just worth it to get it right. You do not want leaks. You do not want drafts coming through. It can be a really expensive mistake. It's worth just getting it right first time.
Definitely.
Thanks for listening. See you on
Thanks.
our next episode.
See you again.
If you found that episode useful, please do us a huge favour by giving us a like and a few stars, and especially click that subscribe button. Thank you.